I am a visionary and run an advertising agency. We do traditional digital marketing strategies. We also have a full stack website team, and they do application development and also custom integrations. So that's kind of how I blend into this community and why tech is so important. Not only do we use it on a continual basis for our agency and in turn the many clients that we serve across the country, but our over 50 staff members understand the importance of tech. And so huge thanks to Pat for asking me to be here. He had a presentation title, and I had to change it a little bit. So how many of you have thought of this? The art of possible. And so that's what we're going to go over today. What is possible? How many times have you looked at something and you realized, okay, here's what needs to be done? And in a mental capacity, you already have shaped what that box is. And so what I want you to do is look at not what is software and what is tech, but rather say, what is possible? And I think that's key. The art of possible is something that I hope you write down and you begin to transform your mindset when you look at technology and software. And this is something, as we walk through a journey that I've had for the last couple of years with Owens Corning and also other leading tech companies, we have said, what is possible? Because if we went into conversations and we said, what is available, we would have missed the mark, correct? And that is where you can have the ability to scale. So when you meet with your teams, may you begin to ask them this: what is possible? Are we truly creating unique components and in turn art? And asking that question. This is a good friend of mine. You may have seen Ken Kelly with Kelly Roofing. And he provided me with this quote: technology is an accelerator in any area we implement in. Our entire organization, and I think that's key, the entire organization is more efficient. Every aspect of Kelly Roofing truly does leverage technology. I've known Ken since 2008, when the economy went through one negative cycle, right? And he and I have worked together since they were small to today, as they have accelerated into a past $50 million company from smaller than 5. And we help handle all of his marketing strategies and many of his initiatives, from hurricane campaigns to rebuilding and deploying new products. And so I have truly seen how their organization, from one end to the other, leverages technology. His quote today is spot on. It is an accelerator, but it is not the component that drives your success. We're going to get into the tech stack, trust me. But I think the key thing as you're looking at your tech stack is hopefully you are a visionary. And if you're not, I would challenge you to be one of the visionaries in the room as you look at your tech stack. I, as a visionary, I say, I have a great idea, and team, let's go charging. And you probably do as well. But may you pause, and I challenge you to look at and ask many of the other individuals in the room, what is their vision? How do they look at the pain that you need to solve? And together, collaboratively, say, here's what that path may be. I was on a recent podcast, which super excited, it's gonna be dropping soon. And they asked me this question, and they said, as a leader, Anna, how do you look at vision? And I said, I used to look at it as I have the idea, we're charging forward. And now I understand that I am simply looking through a pane of glass because I only have one possible line of sight. But when I empower my entire team to come to the table and to provide me with a surrounding perspective, I get the prism effect. And that's where great things happen. So when you're looking at the art of possible with your tech stack, bring more individuals into the conversation than just you. How I got here was through the Owens Corning tech stack development, right? Why I'm standing here. And so I was at a large national conference, and our company had a booth, and it was amazing, amazing show. The biggest contractors in the nation were coming, stopping by our booth, saying, hey, Anna, how's the marketing? What's the trends? What are you feeling? And so I was talking to them, and I paused, and I said, team, I need you to take over the booth. I need 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Of course, they think I'm going to go eat, which I rarely do during events like that. And what they didn't know was I went to the end of the aisle, and I just stood there. And I watched as these great contractors came and went from our booth, and other contractors who wanted to see the same results. And then I watched other booths. And as I observed the contractors come and going, I realized that we in Owens Corning were only feeding the top percentile of contractors to our greatest opportunity. And so I took that back to Owens Corning. And I said, I know unsolicited advice, right? And I take that unsolicited advice to others when they're good friends. And I say, guys, we have this thing. We're feeding 20% of the contractors, 30% of the contractors. What would happen if you fed the entire contractor pool? You gave them the tools to infuse growth into their companies, and you took all the inhibitors off. And they said, Anna, how are we going to do that? I'm like, we need to understand the power of a tech stack. What is possible and not what is available. And they're like, yeah. That was in 2020. The pandemic hit February 28th of 2020. It was published later than that. But it was a life-changing moment for me. And what I would challenge you in this segment is to take time to observe what's happening. How many times have you slowed down in order to understand what's happening within your company, what's the experience that your customers are having, and documented it? Really took time to dissect that. I remember going back to my hotel room after this and just like jotting notes down and saying, okay, we've got this problem, we've got this problem, we've got this opportunity. So I am the past president for the last 2 years of the Roofing Technology Think Tank, and a fantastic organization. We have about only 100 members are able to join. You have to have active participation. And we go to crazy cool tech places. They're at Oracle right now, understanding the power of robotics and some great opportunities that are able to be deployed within the construction industry. So I'm like waiting for the text and the download after I get off the stage here. But we had a meeting recently, and brilliant people. And this is why I say, what is the art of possible, my friends? Good friends in that room were saying, here's our problem. Here's what we need to solve. How can we come to the table as the solution for the construction industry as a whole? And I was listening to this. And all of a sudden, I stood up and I said, my friends, we have a problem here. We are trying to solve the problem of today, but we are not listening and looking for the problem of tomorrow. What is the opportunity that we will bring to the table? Because if we shoot for today, we will fail for tomorrow. So what is that possibility of tomorrow? Are you designing and creating your tech stack for tomorrow? Are you a $2 million company, a $5 million company, a 15? Do you want to be 150? Are you creating your tech stack to scale? What is your elasticity? That's important, my friends. So not only understand what is the path to solving that pain of today, but larger picture, what is the path to solving the pain of tomorrow? And that's what we also discussed with Owens Corning. If you have not heard of EOS, it's the Entrepreneurial Operating System. Get a book called Traction by Gino Wickman. It will transform your business. We self-implemented in 2016. 2014, we hired a coach in 2016. And the reason I bring this up is because many of the contractors that we work with, out of the hundreds, and as I speak for Owens Corning and I go all over the country, some of the most successful contractors that I meet with do this. They do EOS. And they understand the processes that drive success for their companies. You guys, crazy cool thing. I was in DC a couple weeks ago and meeting with head legislators, and they were asking me, they're like, Anna, what's the thing, what's the element that we can help bring to the contractors on a national basis? And I said, have a process, have a formula, and don't box your contractors in. Put mandates on them, they're gonna scream. And they said, process, the formula. And this is applicable to you as well. When you understand the processes, the key drivers, the 20% that drives the 80% of your business success, you then have the ability to create optimization, to have that development, to deploy and have ongoing management. That's where software has the ability to scale your company and scale it quickly. So what is that opportunity? There's a massive study about the impact opportunity of processes, but I think these are the key things that you need to be aware of. Is it broken or inefficient processes that are stopping your company from growing? How many of you have a documented process? Okay, couple, awesome. I would strongly recommend taking the time to document the processes of your company. You will find gaps. You will find elements that are not flexible, and probably components that you are unable to analyze. These are common problems when you lack a process. And this is something that we identified as we were going through what does that tech stack look like with Owens Corning. We said, okay, there are contractors all over the country that do not have documented processes. So how can we assume we know what they need? And so what we did was literally created a fake company, ran all of the tech stack that we're going to look at through this fake company, and we said, here's the best possible process that this company could use. Again, it was all hypothetical. But as we brought software engineers, CEOs to the table, and fake client, we were able to say, okay, here are the areas that most contractors fail within, and if we have that perfect model, what's the software that's needed? And so as you create that process and have it documented, you will find these problems go away. I don't know, have any of you heard of this fellow, Jason Kudo? Some? Yeah? Great guy. Absolutely love him. And so I reached out to Jason and I said, hey buddy, I need a quick quote. And he got this right back to me. And so the one thing that Jason and I talk about is not only marketing and what is the greatest opportunity for growth for them as a company, but he's a fellow EOSer, and ironically travels to Minnesota for the same EOS coach. And he has learned the power of process. And I think that's key because if any of you follow Kudo, you will see the rapid growth within their company. And if you look at the growth that has happened in the last few years, you'll understand the power of EOS. And so he said in conversations, if he didn't have that documented process, he would be failing. So what does that process look like? And this is where we said, okay, that mock scenario, that great contractor, here's what it should look like. Remember I said the power of listening? So I was at a large private meeting, and I'm like surrounded by these geniuses. And I go, God, why am I here? And one guy says, Anna, you're so smart, but you aren't really talking. I'm like, yeah, God. I said, you know, I'm listening. And as I continued to listen, and we were halfway into the meeting, he goes, Anna, the director, he goes, Anna, what are your thoughts? And I had been taking notes, and it just flowed. And I was able to give some clear direction to the project that's going to be deploying here in a quarter or so. And then he said, okay, we've got this whiteboard. It was 20, 30 feet long, huge. And everybody got a marker, and I said, I need 2 of them. Basically, I need half of it. And so what we did was we wireframed out processes and automation to be able to deploy a massive campaign. Hundreds of people are going to come into play. You're going to have to be under a rock not to know about what's coming. And this is the type of strategy that goes into making something actually work. And this is where technology can be unified with that process. So when you have those documented processes, here are questions that we ask. Do you have the right people to create the process? And this was a great question out of the breakout that I had yesterday. Someone said, well, and I recommended, you have to gauge what is the technology level of the team members that you're trying to have use the tech that you are going to be deploying. I said, at 1 is basic, at 10 is high. Are they a 3 and you're a 7? And he goes, hey, Anna, I think my people are maybe a 3 or 4, and I have elevated to a 7. So I ask you, do you have people that get it? Do you have people that want it? And do you have people that have the capacity to do it? When you have yeses to all of those pieces, if they get it, they really, really want it, then you can train some additional development opportunities. We do what's called a career path planning, and we always say, what's the next 6 to 12 months look like for you as an individual, and how will we make sure that you have success? Once you have all of the right people in the room to create the process, you need to make sure that it's known by all. How many times have you walked into a scenario and said, I had no clue this was happening. What's this tech? What's this software? I recently had that happen to me, and I was like, why was I not notified? And our COO said, well, you've been kind of busy, Anna. And that's true. But the key is make sure these key changes and process modifications are known by all. What I would also challenge you to look at is the current software that you are using. Is it being used? If so, why or why not? Everybody in this room uses software, right? And that's what we began to uncover with Owens Corning. Rarely did we find a contractor that didn't have some form of software at play. But yet, why did they retain it, or why were they seeking to replace it? Those are key questions that you need to uncover internally before you make a transition. If you walk away from a platform, document the reason, and document the reason why you step into a new platform. That's key information so that you have buy-in from people taking them and transitioning them from one platform into another. You have to always communicate the why. The next thing, understanding your needs. And this was something that we also looked at with Owens Corning. Does the product meet the need of the customer, of your employee? And then we can do yes or no, yes or no, yes or no. This goes along with your process. Your software is going to fit into different avenues. Remember, the software doesn't drive who you are. Your processes, your unique components that you bring to the market, that's what drives who you are. That, my friends, is the art of possible. You're not having a software company tell you who you are. You should be walking out of that room talking to software vendors and saying, here's my pain, how do you solve it, and what are your integrations? Those are the questions to ask, not tell me about your software. I always like to drive. I don't ever like someone to tell me, so I'm always asking the questions. But I think that is a very important component to making sure you have success. As you're selecting that software and you're driving those questions, here are things that we began to document in the Owens Corning journey. What are the core content or information components that need to flow seamlessly throughout the entire journey of that customer, from first point of contact to end destination? And how are we going to continue to leverage that information and not have any gaps? And always analyze it, team. Don't ever assume that the same 3, 5, 7, 12, 15 data points are going to always be the same. They're going to ebb and flow. Then, what is the type of software that's needed for these processes? Do you have the internal IT components to support that software? Are you elevating your framework, your tech stack, your elasticity of your bandwidth in order to support that? These are questions you should ask. Because we said, okay, when developing this tech stack, if we just say, hey, here's all the components, you lay them out, well, that's well and good. But we cannot just assume that they will all have this type of device. It has to be multi-device accessibility. So understand that as well. What is the type of not only software, but also IT needed, and where does it fit into the process? Name it. How many times have you purchased a piece of software and you're the only one who is the key point of contact? I've learned this the hard way. Many of my friends who run amazing companies have as well. Never be the sole point of contact for making sure that the software is successful. Have more than one person. Is it 2 people? Is it 3 people? Why? Because you have the ability to unblock your team as you scale. So this leads us into what we call creating champions. Has anyone heard of a brand called Rackley? They do NASCAR racing, Rackley Roofing. Okay. They're not in remodeling space, obviously, but if you'd watch truck racing, NASCAR, you'll see this car by Rackley. And the owner of that NASCAR team, and he has multiple other race cars, he has also a roofing company, and they do a variety of building envelope solutions. He works on creating champions internally. So who on the team, like I said, is going to manage the software long term? You're going to have one person that's going to manage the financial and some of the build out and development, but then who's actually managing it? We have 2 sets of individuals internally in our company, and so do others, where one is the development and deploy person on staff, and another one is the management team. Because the branch level can usually manage the software, but they're not able to build it out. So that's key. Do you have different roles within the company? Next, if you don't have a communication plan, you're going to fail. I would strongly recommend creating a communication plan. You say, Anna, that's marketing. Yes. When you have your entire team behind what you're deploying at scale, think of the power, my friends. How will you do what we call cascading messages? Internally, externally, and it cascades. So we have an internal working document, and this is what I was talking about. I needed 2 whiteboards. I was in charge of the cascading messaging as it goes from corporate to internal management to network to national to international. I'm like, I got it. I can handle cascading messaging at a scale. And so this is what you need to understand, the power of your communication plan. And then how are you going to communicate it? Do not simply communicate change of large nature via email, via text, via one meeting. You're going to need to say it 7 to 12 times before you have full adoption. And this is one of the big gaps that tech, usually you say, oh, we gave them the app, it's loaded on their device, and they're good to go. But if you fail to continually communicate what is the opportunity, they will not adapt and change. So where do you start? What are the big things? And for some of you, this may be simple. For others, this may be exactly what you need. But when we created the Owens Corning tech stack, we said, what are the core components we have to make sure we have built into this? Accounting software, CRM, and you have to be able to measure. And many times we see siloing between these big entities, right? So what is the benefit? Why do you need to do it? I think these stats prove it. And they're legit, my friends. I love running fast. I only go 110 miles an hour, and brake pedals are optional in life. And these are the types of stats that I like to see. that I expect from my team. I had a coach recently tell me, she goes, well, if they don't do anything, we'll be okay. And I said, if they don't do anything, we will have failed. The only constant we have in life is change. And she's like, oh my gosh. But this is so true. Change is not a threat. We must look for transformative success. That is the only thing that we want to lean into. You need to empower your team as you go through this change and make sure they understand that their success is your success. You are doing this to make sure their jobs are secure. So as I've worked with the Roofing Technology Think Tank and other partners, we talk about this thing called the API. And probably everybody here has heard of the API, right? There are 4 types, core types of APIs. So if you haven't ever looked at API types, here's a quick rundown of the difference between private, public, partner, and a composite. So why is this important? This is where you have different companies that say, we have an API, but it might not be legit, right? So when doing that evaluation, if you don't have weren't in my prior session, and you want the evaluation of software list, happy to give that to you. But this is where when we said we need to make sure that the APIs are actually working and able to integrate the tech stack, we said they must be public, or if it's a partner API, you need to make sure that you're able to talk with these companies. If you haven't heard of a piece of software called Zapier, I'd strongly recommend it. Zapier allows you to have easy integration and connect things without a developer. We have software engineers and developers on staff, and they're like, Anna, we don't need Zapier. But in all honesty, it's sometimes a really easy solution. So when you're looking at doing integrations at scale, one thing that I would say is, depending on your size, and this is what I've done with some companies and even internally, is I have a hypothesis that this is the path. Here are the software and the different processes that are needed in order to achieve success. Bringing a developer and doing a true integration takes time and money, and sometimes Zapier is that stopgap for us to be able to understand, is it worth the investment or not? Is it the long-term solve to be able to have us see the future of tomorrow and not just solve the pain of today? So to me, Zapier is a great solution if you don't have multiple zaps that are running at a high frequency. If not, and you do have lots of what is called zaps or triggers, then you would probably want to have a developer. So here, this is the tech stack that we created with Owens Corning. We had to ensure that there was enough companies that were willing to come to the table and share data. It's your data. It should all be exportable. You should be able to have the integrations, but you'd be surprised how many companies in the software world said, we're not really sure we want to integrate to the level that, come on guys, everybody expects. So these companies all did come to the table, and they said, yes, we want in, we want a portion of this, and here's what we can bring to the table. Worked with some of these companies for quite some time, but it wasn't easy. It took 18 months to get everything to fire correctly and have that fake company actually achieve success. And hopefully that gives you visibility. So when you're building out your tech stack, it takes time. Make sure you have your process developed, because it's not easy to plug something back in. We also looked at it through this lens. Owens Corning said, hey, this graphic is great. And we were in a brainstorming session, and I said, no, it's not. It doesn't make sense of the why. So we came up with this. What does it need to integrate with and why? And how does the information that flows is not listed here, but what are the components that will flow through and be visible between platforms? So we had to wireframe that. And here's the very digestible version. But it was a powerful component to be able to truly make everybody think about, okay, we did these wireframes, and how do we really integrate? And what has proven to be successful? There were things that did not work, just going to be honest. But we were willing to say, what is the art of possible, and what can we deploy on the second round of edits? So you have software currently in your business, right? And I challenged everybody in the other room. I said, do not simply look at your software tech stack and say, check, it's done. Every 6 months to a year, you should evaluate it and find out, is it still working for you? What are the new features that are available? What we find is that many times we are truly not leveraging the software, or our clients aren't leveraging the software to its greatest opportunity. I have clients who will come to me and say, Anna, I think we have to add this shiny object. It always happens after big shows. And I'm like, yes, but did you know you have some crossover on this software that does similar to that software? So you can pay for both, but yet, do you need to make a pivot, or should we enable this feature? And they're like, how do you know about that? Because, and it's simple, you guys, because I stay in contact with these software companies. Obviously, I have access to some private information, but I only share what's public. And I say, this actually just deployed. You should have seen the email go out, et cetera, et cetera. And so here's a simple evaluation process that you can go through and make sure that you are truly utilizing the software that is needed. So this is something that I'm working on a personal level, as a company, and with other entities. And I share this because I want you to understand, as you look at your tech stack, as we have looked at the tech stack with Owens Corning, we said, how can we be better than yesterday? How can we shoot for tomorrow and not think about today? As a visionary, you should be 1 to 3 years ahead of your company. If you're working in the company, you should be 3 to 6 months, 6 to 12 months in front of your team. Don't think about today. Today should be running through the process. You should be understanding what the future process looks like and building for that tomorrow. So B is my word of the year. And did you know B means to have real existence? So I've been personally saying, how will I be present? How will I listen? And how will I be a variety of different things? Slow down to speed up, my friends. As you build tech out, have the same philosophy. Slow down to speed up. And this is the same type of philosophy that my good friend Ken Kelly has won multiple awards and spoken on major Microsoft stages, is if you do not understand how to be present, how to listen, how to observe, you will not truly deploy tech at scale that solves problems. I challenge my team with this, and I want to challenge you. If you do not understand true failure, you have not tried hard enough. Share with someone what you're doing, obviously, but be prepared to fail. Let me say that again, because every choice is a chance. How many people or competitors in your market are not making changes? What opportunity are they leaving on the table that you can scoop up? And yeah, it might take 2, 3, 4, 5 different attempts, but we have light bulbs now. That took a lot of attempts. So make sure that you are taking the chance, that you are looking at tech through the art of possible, that it's no longer just an opportunity or you're being sold software, but rather you are saying, I'm going to take a chance, I'm going to solve the pain, and I'm going to be the company of tomorrow, not the company of today. No one has the same vision you do. So as we look at the art of possible, I wanted to share this because as I was in that room, and I was listening to all of these thought leaders as they were talking about the problem of today. And I was struck with, why are we talking about the problem of today when we need to build for tomorrow? And that's what software engineers do all the time. So I want to share this with you. May we understand the art of possible. Through this exercise, we strive to expand our perspective, to imagine new innovation and technology that fuels the future of humanity. To do this, to me, it means we must lean in on talent. People are your most precious commodity. We must lean in on technology. Technology is the component that makes everything stick together. It's the glue. And then software comes. You came to this event and you said, I need some new tech. I need some new software. But roll up. What do your people need? What do your customers need? Then you can lean in on technology. Then you can lean in on software. Then, here's my next thought. When we look through this lens, we recognize that technology will drive the future and software will be built to support it. And this is why I shared with my friends in that meeting. And they were like, quiet. And I thought, man, I missed the mark. And they afterwards said, Anna, I just needed to process that. Because when you look at the art of possible through this lens, the opportunities are endless. Your businesses will grow to another level. Your team will feel empowered. They'll feel heard. Your customers will become raving fans. This is our dream, right? I love coming to these events because I say, God, how can I unlock the hidden opportunities within you? How can I help you see the art of possible? So with that, thank you so much. I hope that you now look at technology through a whole nother lens and say, what is possible, not what is.